Hello, my name is Stephen Knight. Welcome to the Trainerscope Office 365 series, episode 3, which is actually the sequel to episode 2. Because today we're exploring versioning again, but this time from the perspective of OneDrive. And again, we'll explore this experience looking at Safari first, then Chrome, then Firefox, and now it's Firefox Quantum on my Mac Mini here as well. I will, in the show notes on YouTube and on my blog, put the versions of what I'm actually using here, which will be important as time moves on. Now, let's have a look at what's actually happening here. So I'm again logged in as Dan Matthews. Dan's not a real person, but he's good for testing. And I'm going to select a document here. I also should point out, not only am I logged in as Dan, I'm on OneDrive, which is a big difference to episode 2, where I was in a group library. Now, the scenario is that we want to look at an earlier version of the fourth report document because we need to look at a mistake, what was a change made for some reason, or we might need to roll back to an earlier version and make that the current version. So we need to look at our versions, and this is where we had trouble, as you might recall, specifically in Safari and in Chrome. Let's see how this behaves in OneDrive. So I have a document selected. I'm going to click my little vertical 3 dots here. In the shortcut menu, I'm going to go to version history. Now, I see a different approach here. I do have my links, but you'll notice if you go back and compare with episode 2, where we looked at versioning, I'm not getting a little drop-down arrow, but I do have 3 dots. Now, 3 dots, as we know in Office 365, always means, hey, click on me, there's more. So let's do this. And we get a little menu. Now, another little strategic point is we were having trouble in Chrome and Safari, not with the latest version, but with older versions of the document, getting them to open up. So you'll notice we've got something different here. It says download. Now, previously what we had to do was click the time and date stamp. So if I choose download here, what it will do for me is it will download. And if I go to my downloads now, I now have fourth report, and I can click on that and Word will open up. And what we see here in Word is the fourth report document. We can view this. Again, you'll notice I'm using my little slider down the bottom right here to zoom in. Common functionality between Office 2016 on the Mac and Office 2016 on the PC. So we see our document here and we could review it. Now, this is a read-only version. It's been downloaded, but that's fine. If it's a Word document or a spreadsheet, you just want to look at what was happening at this particular point in the history of the document. You can then make decisions about, do we want to revert to this version, copy some content out of it, what do we want to do? So that's working pretty much as advertised. So where we're heading, just back to Safari here just for a moment. Now, if necessary, I could then make the decision to restore to make this the current version. Not going to do that at the moment, but that's there and it works. So that's a good experience there so far and pretty much as designed. So where we're heading next is we've had a look at this in Safari. I'm now going to go to Chrome. I'm now in Chrome looking at OneDrive, logged in as Dan, my fictional person. I'm going to look at the same experience with the same document. So I've got fourth report selected. I can click on my 3 dots. I see my version history in the shortcut menu. And I'm going to come over to version 2 and pretty much as you'd expect, same experience, 3 dots, download. Let me download. Now, slightly different experience in the downloading. You'll notice in the bottom left-hand corner is where my document has gone, which is just the way the Chrome works. That's a Chrome thing, no matter what environment you're in. And when I click on my document, again, as we saw, we have a downloaded version of the document which we can read and review, and that's perfectly okay. You're not really editing these versions. If we wanted to start editing this version, you would restore it to the current version and then start editing and updating it from there. Okay, so that's a good experience. A little bit different again because it's Chrome, and Chrome did its own thing with the download, but that's okay. So where we're going to head next is into Firefox. Now, we're back in Firefox, looking at versioning in OneDrive, logged in as Dan Matthews, looking at the document we've been looking at. Let's see what's similar and different here. We're in for a little bit of a surprise. So when I click my three dots, having selected fourth report, I go to the version history. I see my history of versions. I see my shortcut menu giving me the option to download. Nothing new here. When I choose to download, it says what product do I want to download it with. You'll notice I could set this to function automatically as well, so that it just takes this choice every time. If I then click OK, it downloads it, and this is the nice bit, where with Chrome I had to go and get it off the bottom of the left-hand corner of the screen, and with Safari I had to go to my downloads to get the file. Firefox has just opened it for me automatically. So that's a nice feature. Nice little touch. And just puts Firefox again in the versioning in Office 365, just puts Firefox a little bit ahead again. Now, you might be saying, look, before we see this next feature in Safari, you were using Firefox Quantum there. Did the upgrade affect the performance of what we saw working satisfactorily in episode 2? And I've tested it out, and on a regular group library, Firefox Quantum is behaving perfectly as far as viewing previous versions. So again, extra points to Firefox. Now, back in Safari. Now, we saw in episode 2, we were in a library that belonged to a group, but could have also been the SharePoint view of a library belonging to a team. Then we couldn't see versions other than the latest version, which, as we discussed, was kind of pointless, and a similar experience in Chrome. So, is there a solution to that? Well, I kind of do have a little bit of a solution. I'll say this is a solution, not necessarily the solution. So what we've got here is on the left in OneDrive, you'll notice I can see groups that I'm a member of. And if a group has been updated to a team, or if it was just created as a team, you will still see it here as if it was a group, because this is sort of backwards compatibility, I guess you'd call it. So I'm going to go to Department Queue. I'm going to go to Documents. You will recognize here I've got my quadruple A demo report. If I click on the three dots, I go to my version history. Now, because I'm accessing these files through OneDrive, you'll actually notice we're getting the OneDrive experience. So I can get to download the file. You'll just notice a little Mac special effect there. It's just downloaded it. I can come down onto my status bar, go to my downloads, and there is quadruple A demo report, and I can open it up. And for those of you who remember episode 2, we had coloured formatting and various things, different fonts in the latest version. This is the plain vanilla earliest version that we can then study and examine and make a decision about, do we revert to this version or what are we going to do? So that is a solution. This also works with Chrome on a Mac as well. So if you can access your files through OneDrive, you will get that more effective OneDrive experience when you want to look at previous versions. which those of you working on project teams or putting policy documents together or proposals that have a lot of versions and need to be rolled back, or budget spreadsheets, if you're working on a Mac, you can get a satisfactory experience through that I've just demonstrated. So thank you for your patience. I know there was a lot of repetition in that, but I thought it was important for people to see this actually working across a range of browsers, where in episode 2 we'd seen it not work in a couple of browsers. If you found that useful, I'd really like you to do a couple of things. One is to subscribe if you're watching this through the YouTube channel. If you're looking at this through other social media, you can follow me, please do. And if you've got questions, in the YouTube channel, there is the ability to leave a comment if you want to ask a question, or, really important for me, suggest a topic for a future episode. Future episodes we'll be looking at a mixture of PC and Mac environment now that I have the Mac Mini, but there's a lot of useful, important stuff to see in the PC environment as well, so we'll swap between the two. Thank you for your time, and come back again soon.